What if today was the day you finally stopped giving your energy to people who don't value you? Imagine reclaiming your power, demanding the respect you deserve, and living life unapologetically on your own terms. This isn't about being liked, it's about being respected. It's about becoming the man who knows his worth and refuses to settle for less. By the end of this video, you won't just feel different, you'll be different. You'll stop playing their game and start creating your own. Let's be real. The world doesn't care about your excuses, and respect isn't something you chase. Power doesn't return to those who beg, it comes back to those who take it. If you're done being overlooked, undervalued, and unappreciated, stick with me. This is your roadmap to becoming the man you were always meant to be. But before we dive in, drop a comment that says, "I choose respect over approval." Because today marks the start of your transformation. And hey, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming next. All right, if you're ready, let's get started. Let's dive deeper into this idea because it's something so many men get wrong. When you chase validation, you're not just giving away your power, you're building a habit of weakness. You're training yourself to believe that your value comes from how others see you. And that belief quietly eats away at your confidence. The more you seek approval, the more you teach yourself that you're not enough as you are. And that's not the man you want to be. Think about it in a relationship. She starts pulling away, her replies get shorter, her enthusiasm fades, and you feel that distance growing. What do? Most men react by overcompensating. They text more, call more, offer to do more, thinking, if I just try harder, she'll see how much I care. But here's the brutal truth. The harder you try, the more unattractive you become. Why? Because chasing her screams insecurity. It tells her you don't value yourself enough to pull back. This isn't just limited to relationships. It shows up everywhere. Maybe it's a boss who never acknowledges your work, so you put in extra hours, hoping they'll finally notice you. Maybe it's a friend who constantly disrespects your time, but instead of calling them out, you keep giving them second chances. Or maybe it's a family member whose approval you've been chasing for years, only to realize it's never going to come. The result? You end up drained, frustrated, and wondering why no one seems to respect you. The answer is simple. Respect isn't something you can beg for. It's something you command by the way you carry yourself. And you can't carry yourself with strength and confidence if you're constantly looking for someone else to validate your worth. So what's the solution? Flip the script. Stop asking, do they approve of me? And start asking, do I approve of myself? That's where the real power lies. Take a moment to look at your actions. Are you living in a way that aligns with your values? Are you making decisions that make you proud of the man you're becoming? If the answer is no, then that's where the work begins. Understand this. Not everyone is going to see your worth. Not everyone is going to appreciate what you bring to the table. And that's okay, because your worth doesn't depend on their recognition. It comes from within. The moment you start living in a way that earns your own respect, everything shifts. People notice, they feel that confidence, that strength, that self-assuredness. Respect yourself first, and the world will follow. Stop chasing. Stop begging for what's already yours. When you walk in your own worth, you stop needing their validation. You're no longer trying to prove yourself. You're just being yourself. And that's where your power truly lies. When you respect yourself, you walk differently. You speak differently. You carry yourself with a quiet confidence that people can't help but notice. Respect isn't something you demand, it's something you attract. So stop chasing, stop begging for someone else to tell you you're enough. You already are. Start living like it. Let's keep building on what we talked about in step 1, because once you stop chasing validation, the next step is crucial. Recognizing the warning signs when you're being undervalued. Most men miss these signs, not because they aren't there, but because facing them is uncomfortable. Admitting that someone doesn't value you the way you deserve can sting. But here's the truth. Awareness is your first step to taking your power back. So what are the signs? They're often subtle at first. Maybe her tone changes, less warmth, less excitement when she talks to you. Maybe her enthusiasm for spending time together starts to fade. Plans get canceled more frequently, or worse, you're met with radio silence, unanswered texts, ignored calls. These things might feel small individually, but over time they paint a clear picture. Sound familiar? Maybe you've found yourself in situations where you're always the one reaching out, always initiating conversations, always making the plans. And what do you get in return? The bare minimum. Excuses, indifference, silence. The hard truth is this: people value what they have to work for. If you're doing all the work, you're teaching them that your time, energy, and attention are cheap. And here's the thing about cheap things: they're easily taken for granted and just as easily discarded. Recognizing these signs isn't about blaming others. It's about taking responsibility. Responsibility for the role you've played in the dynamic. Ask yourself some hard questions. Am I tolerating disrespect because I'm afraid of confrontation? Am I ignoring red flags just to keep the peace? If the answer is yes, it's time to wake up. Here's the reality. You set the standard for how others treat you. If you allow disrespect, it will continue. If you keep giving more than you're getting, they'll take you for granted. But when you start holding yourself and others to a higher standard, the dynamic shifts. Let me give you a picture of what this looks like in practice. Imagine you're in a relationship, and she starts canceling plans last minute. The first time, you let it slide. The second time, you make excuses for her, thinking, she must be busy. By the third time, you're feeling resentful, but you still don't say anything because you don't want to seem difficult. But here's the problem. By staying silent, you're sending a message. You're saying, it's okay to disrespect my time. And once she knows that, the behavior continues. This is why recognizing the warning signs is so important. It's not just about seeing the problem, it's about deciding how you're going to respond. Are you going to keep tolerating behavior that diminishes your worth? Or are you going to set a new standard for how you deserve to be treated? The choice is yours. And let me tell you, once you start paying attention to these signs and holding people accountable, everything changes. You'll stop wasting time on those who undervalue you, and you'll start attracting people who truly respect and appreciate you. But it all starts with awareness. Stop ignoring the signs. See them for what they are, and take action. Because your worth isn't up for negotiation. It never was. Now that you've recognized the warning signs, it's time to take the next step, stepping back. This might feel counterintuitive at first because everything in you is saying, do more, fix it. But when someone doesn't value you, the most powerful move you can make isn't to try harder, it's to step back. Here's why. Stepping back changes the dynamic. It sends a clear message, not through words, but through actions. You're no longer chasing, feeding their ego, or playing the game on their terms. Instead, you're creating space. And in that space, something remarkable happens. They start noticing your absence. Think about this for a moment. If you're always available, always the one initiating, always bending over backward, what happens? They get comfortable. They start taking you for granted. Your presence becomes predictable, and predictable things are easy to ignore. It's human nature. We rarely appreciate what's always there until it's gone. Now picture a different scenario. Imagine you step back. You stop texting first, stop making the calls, and stop planning the next get-together. What happens? At first, they might not notice, but over time, that absence becomes undeniable. They start wondering, why haven't I heard from him? Did I mess up? Is he moving on? That's the power of stepping back. It forces them to confront the reality of life without you in it. But let me be clear, this isn't about manipulation. This isn't some game to make them miss you or crawl back. Stepping back is about reclaiming your energy. It's about saying, I refuse to keep pouring into someone who doesn't pour back into me. It's about redirecting all that time, focus, and effort into yourself. Because here's the truth. The more you invest in yourself, the stronger you become. You gain clarity, confidence, and a renewed sense of self-worth. You stop seeking their approval because you've already found your own. And when that shift happens, when you truly step back and focus on you, it's not just them who notices. You notice. You realize how much power you had all along. Here's the beauty of this approach. By the time they do come around, by the time they feel your absence and want to make things right, you might not even want them back. Why? Because you'll have grown. You'll have moved forward. You'll have realized that your worth was never tied to them in the first place. So the next time someone doesn't value you, don't argue, don't plead, and don't chase. Step back, create space, focus on yourself. Because when you do, you're not just teaching them to respect your absence, you're teaching yourself to value your presence. And that shift, that's where your power truly lies. Now that you've stepped back and reclaimed your energy, it's time to do something powerful with it. Invest in yourself. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you truly put yourself first? Not for a moment, not as an afterthought, but as a priority. If you're like most men, the answer might be too long ago. Here's the reality. We're conditioned to pour our energy into others, into relationships, our jobs, our friendships. We're taught that sacrificing for others makes us valuable. And while there's honor in being dependable, too often it comes at the cost of our own growth. We end up drained, stuck, and unfulfilled because we forget the most important person in the equation, ourselves. But when you start investing in yourself, everything changes. You send a message, not just to the world, but to yourself, that you matter. You're saying, I'm worth the time, I'm worth the effort, and I'm worth the energy. That's not just self-care, it's self-respect. And self-respect is magnetic. So how do you begin? Start small. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. Maybe you hit the gym 3 times a week to build not just your body, but your discipline. Maybe you finally take that online course you've been putting off, or start learning a skill you've always been curious about. Maybe you set a single goal, something meaningful, and commit to taking the first step today. The beauty of investing in yourself is that every small step compounds. The more you show up for yourself, the more confident, capable, and grounded you become. You stop seeking approval from others because you're too busy growing, too focused on becoming the best version of yourself. And here's the kicker. When you invest in yourself, you stop needing validation from anyone else. You already know your worth. Imagine this. You've stepped back from chasing people who don't value you, and instead, you've turned that energy inward. You've started showing up for yourself in ways you never have before. You feel stronger, more focused, and more in control. Now, when you walk into a room, people notice, not because you're demanding attention, but because your energy speaks for itself. That's the power of self-investment. And here's the most exciting part. The best version of you is waiting. He's not out of reach. He's already within you, just waiting for the chance to emerge. But it's up to you to take the first step. So today, make a commitment. Start small, but start. Because the moment you invest in yourself, you begin to build a life where you're not just surviving, you're thriving. And trust me, that's a life worth living. Once you've invested in yourself, the next step is to protect that investment. And that's where setting boundaries comes in. Let me be clear. Setting boundaries doesn't make you rude, selfish, or difficult. It makes you respected. Boundaries are your way of saying, this is what I need and I won't accept less. Here's why this matters. When you don't set boundaries, you send the message that your time, energy, and emotions are up for grabs. You tell people, intentionally or not, that it's okay to disrespect you. And guess what? They'll believe you. Now let's get practical. Think about your relationships. Maybe there's a friend who constantly cancels plans at the last minute. You make time for them, rearrange your schedule, and yet they still flake. What's the solution? Stop making plans with them. You're not being petty. You're setting a standard. Or maybe you're in a relationship where your partner disrespects you, takes you for granted, or crosses your boundaries repeatedly. The hard truth? You need to have the courage to walk away. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, people might leave when you set boundaries. But here's the question you need to ask yourself. Do I really want people in my life who don't respect me? The answer should be obvious. Here's something else to consider. People value what they fear losing. If you're always available, always accommodating, and always chasing, you're teaching them that they don't need to value you. Why should they? You've made it clear that you'll always be there, no matter how they treat you. But when you set boundaries, you flip the script. You show them that your time, your energy, and your respect have value, and that they're not guaranteed. Let me tell you something important. Boundaries aren't about controlling others. They're about controlling yourself. You can't force someone to respect you, but you can decide what you'll tolerate. Boundaries are about making a choice, to walk away from disrespect, to say no when something doesn't align with your values, and to prioritize yourself even when it's uncomfortable. The hardest part? Enforcing your boundaries. Setting them is one thing, standing by them is another. For example, if a friend keeps canceling plans, don't just say, "That bothers me." Show them through your actions. Stop making plans. If your partner continues to cross a line you've drawn, don't explain it over and over. Let your actions speak by stepping back or walking away. Your boundaries are only as strong as your willingness to enforce them. And let's be real, this might scare some people off. But here's the truth. They're not leaving because you set boundaries. They're leaving because they can't handle the respect you're demanding. And that's okay. The people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries. not test them. Boundaries aren't walls meant to keep everyone out. They're standards meant to let the right people in. So don't be afraid to set them. Protect your time. Guard your energy. Honor your values. Because when you do, you're not just teaching others how to treat you, you're showing yourself what you're worth. And trust me, that's a lesson that will change everything. Now that you've set boundaries, let's talk about something even more powerful. Mastering the art of detachment. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become cold, indifferent, or distant. Instead, it means learning to live in a way where your happiness, your peace, and your sense of self-worth aren't tied to anyone else's actions. Picture this. You're in a relationship. You've set clear boundaries. You're giving your best, and you're showing up as the strongest version of yourself. But here's the key. You don't let your emotional well-being depend on how they respond. If they stay, that's great. If they leave, you're still okay. You're not shattered by their absence because you've built a life and a mindset that doesn't rely on their presence to feel complete. This is what detachment is all about. It's freedom. Freedom from fear. Freedom from insecurity. Freedom from the need to control outcomes. And let me tell you, that freedom is life-changing. When you're attached, you're constantly worried about losing something or someone. You try to hold on tighter, manage every detail, and overthink every move. That need for control isn't love, it's fear. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear that you're not enough. But when you're detached, you operate from a place of strength, not fear. You're able to give freely without needing anything in return. You love because you choose to, not because you're afraid of being alone. Here's another way to think about it. Detachment is like standing tall in a storm. The wind might blow, the rain might pour, but you're grounded. You don't panic, you don't crumble. You remain steady because your peace doesn't come from the weather, it comes from within. But let's be honest, detachment isn't easy. It requires you to let go of the illusion of control. It requires you to trust that whatever happens, you'll be okay. And most of all, it requires you to shift your focus from what others think, feel, or do to who you are and how you choose to live. So how do you practice detachment? Start by reminding yourself that you can only control your actions, not the outcome. Set your boundaries, give your best, and then let go of the rest. Trust that if something is meant for you, it will stay. And if it's not, letting it go creates space for something better. Detachment is not about withdrawing or isolating yourself. It's about showing up fully, at work, in your relationships, and in life, but without attaching your worth to the results. It's about knowing that your value isn't dependent on whether someone chooses you or leaves you. Whether a plan succeeds or fails, your value is intrinsic. And here's the reward for mastering detachment: peace of mind. In a world full of chaos, that peace is priceless. It allows you to walk into any situation with confidence, knowing that no matter what happens, you'll remain whole. So start today. Practice letting go of outcomes. Focus on being the best version of yourself. Trust in your ability to adapt, to grow, and to thrive, no matter what comes your way. Detachment isn't about losing. It's about gaining something far more important: freedom and inner peace. And when you've got those, you've already won. Now we've come to the final step, and it's the one that ties everything together: dominating your own path. This is where you stop living for others, stop following someone else's script, and finally take control of your life. Let's get real. If you're not where you want to be, there's only one person responsible: you. That might be a hard truth to swallow, but it's also the most empowering one. Why? Because if you're responsible for where you are, you also have the power to change it. Blaming others, waiting for someone to rescue you, or making excuses might feel comforting in the short term, but all it does is keep you stuck. The moment you decide to take full responsibility for your life, you take back your power. So, what does dominating your path really mean? It starts with clarity. Get clear on your vision. What kind of life do you want to create? What do you value? What are you working toward? Without a vision, you're just drifting, reacting to whatever life throws at you. But with a vision, you're proactive. You're intentional. You're building something that matters. Next, take a hard look at the people around you. Are they pushing you to grow? Are they challenging you to become better? Or are they holding you back, draining your energy, and keeping you small? If someone isn't aligned with your vision, it's time to let them go. That might sound harsh, but remember this. You can't dominate your own path if you're constantly carrying dead weight. But here's the most important part. Dominating your path isn't about reaching a specific destination. It's not about ticking off boxes or achieving some arbitrary goal. It's about the journey. It's about waking up every day and knowing you're living on your terms. It's about looking in the mirror and being proud of the man you're becoming. It's about the small victories, the lessons learned, and the progress made along the way. Think of it like this. Your life is a blank canvas, and you're the artist. You get to choose the colors, the brush strokes, the composition, but to create something beautiful, you have to pick up the brush. You have to stop waiting for permission, stop worrying about what others will think, and just start painting. When you start dominating your own path, you stop needing external validation. You're not looking for someone else to tell you you're on the right track because you already know. You're confident in your direction, secure in your choices, and focused on your growth. So today, take the first step. Maybe it's setting a clear goal. Maybe it's cutting ties with someone who's holding you back. Maybe it's simply deciding that from this moment forward, you're going to take full ownership of your life. Because the truth is, no one else is going to do it for you. This is your journey, your story, your legacy. And when you start living like that, when you start dominating your own path, everything changes. You stop surviving and start thriving. You stop following and start leading. You stop existing and start truly living. This is your time. Own it, create it, live it. And remember, dominating your path isn't just about where you end up. It's about the man you become along the way. Now, everything we've talked about leads to this moment. This isn't just a video you watch and forget. This is your call to action. It's time to stop sitting on the sidelines and start taking control of your life. Today isn't just another day. It's the day you take the first step toward reclaiming your power. So here's your challenge. Pick one thing and do it. Set a boundary where there hasn't been one. Maybe it's saying no to something or someone that's been draining your energy. Maybe it's speaking up for yourself instead of staying silent. It doesn't have to be huge, but it does have to matter. Or maybe your first step is reclaiming an hour of your time. Think about all the moments you've wasted on things or people that don't add value to your life. Now take 1 hour back and use it for you. Read a book, hit the gym, learn something new. Whatever it is, make it count. Or maybe your step is an investment in yourself. Maybe it's finally signing up for that class, starting a side project, or even just taking 30 minutes to reflect and plan your next move. Because every time you invest in yourself, you're telling the world and yourself that you matter. This isn't about perfection. It's not about doing everything all at once. It's about momentum. Taking one step, no matter how small, sets the tone for everything that comes next. And here's the secret. Once you take that first step, the next one gets easier. Then the one after that. Before you know it, you've built habits, created change, and transformed your life. So here's what I want you to do. Right now in the comments, write, "I am ready to reclaim my power." Let it be your declaration, not to me, but to yourself. Say it out loud if you need to. Feel it, own it, because this is the moment everything changes. And don't stop there. Hit that subscribe button. Commit to this journey, not because you're following someone else's path, but because you're finally ready to dominate your own. Your challenge starts now. Not tomorrow, not someday. Right now. One step, one decision, one action. The life you want is waiting, but it's up to you to go after it. So what's it gonna be? Are you ready to step up? Because the time is now, and the only thing standing in your way is the choice you make in this moment. Let's wrap this up with one undeniable truth. Your life is yours to create. No one else is going to do it for you. The road ahead won't always be easy, but it will be worth it. Every step you take, no matter how small, is your declaration that you won't settle. You're choosing respect over approval, growth over comfort, strength over fear. You're choosing you. Remember, the power doesn't lie in knowing these steps. It lies in living them. It's in the moments when you choose to stand up for yourself, when you walk away from what doesn't serve you, and when you invest your energy into what truly matters. That's where transformation happens. You don't need permission to reclaim your power. Everything you need is already inside of you. The only question now is, are you ready to take the leap? Your future isn't waiting. It's unfolding right now. You're the one who decides what it will look like. So, take that first step, no matter how small. Then take another and another. Keep going, and as you do, you'll realize that the life you've always wanted has been within your reach all along. This is your moment. Own it. Live it. Never look back. Thanks for being with Stoic Heart on this journey today. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our latest videos. We'd love to hear your thoughts or suggestions for future topics, so drop a comment below. See you in the next video.